Hi, all. I have Dee Dee here again. This is part two of our discussion. We want to talk a little bit more about what we discussed last week. And what we want to try to zero in on this week is what it honestly looks like to see ourselves, how we accuse others to escape facing our emotions, and justify thinking patterns that continue to damage our relationships with others and with God and with ourselves. So, we want to just briefly touch on some of the things we did last week and also dive further into examples of what this looks like in real day life, real time, kind of like Dee Dee shared last week with her mother-in-law and the food that she was giving her. So this is real life stuff we want to talk about. As far as my experience with this accusing others to escape facing our emotions, what I've seen as in my clients is I most often see justification for being angry or snappy or mean with spouse or children. And we believe it's what they did or said that caused us to feel negative emotion. For instance, here's just an example I've heard multiple times. A husband may be on his phone sitting on the couch instead of helping his wife. And so we complain or snap at him for never helping. And instead of creating what we want, which is more help and that type of thing, it creates the opposite. And we're justifying our anger and our snappiness and our meanness with this is just truth. He's not helping and I'm doing everything. So can you speak to that, or does that make sense to you at all, Dee Dee?
Oh, yeah, that's definitely kind of what I really wanted to hopefully discuss with you, share. Forgive me, I'm going to readjust I'm holding my phone and
Oh,
I need to
okay.
rest my arm on the
Yeah, that
rest
might
of
get
the chair.
tiring.
It's
Mhm.
going to get tiring after a while.
Yeah.
But before I share anything, I just want to remind everyone that I am not a specialist. I'm not a trained life coach. I'm not an author. I'm I am just a normal person who's been doing this work for years,
That's
and
exactly
it
who I
has
want to hear
changed.
from,
It has
right?
changed, right?
Hmm.
And so, one of the things that we, I most of my marriage life, we didn't have phones like the younger generation is dealing with. So, my husband didn't come home and sit on a phone when I had kids, but I had this awful guilt because my house was not clean. It wasn't perfect. And he would walk in the door and I would feel angry just having him come in because I know he's judging me. He thinks I've done nothing all day. He has no idea what I've been doing. And then I'd be mad at his mom. His mom was such a clean freak. She was a workaholic. I can't do what she does. Or, even if I did look at my own, turn to myself of, I'm not, you know, organized enough or whatever, I'd blame my mom. My mom never taught me how to do any of this stuff. And, you know, those type of things are so common for us because we don't want to really face that honest evaluation of where am I in this situation and what have I done to contribute to it, or to deal with those emotions of embarrassment or feeling like I've fallen short or
Resentment.
frustration.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hmm.
any of those negative type emotions. I think it's just so common.
So just like you did with your mother-in-law, how did you start to break free of these thoughts of blame and feeling shame yourself and break out of that? What do you remember the moment or the moments when you started to see your part, which may not look like, oh, I should be doing better every day. It may not look like that. It's different than if I just get more organized and work harder, then I won't feel this way. That's not the answer. So what is the answer?
So, first of all, it's my stepmom that I
Mm,
talked about, my mother-in-law. But
mhm,
Where it began with me was when the Lord taught me I needed to become my own observer. I needed to witness the reaction that I was having, or the action line. How
Mhm,
am I acting? What
mhm,
is going on in my body? My physical body is reacting in this situation.
right.
And then start thinking about, what are the emotions that are going through my body that's causing my body to react, and to do that whole process of what are my thoughts and what do I believe. And we talked about, kind of my version of the model, what I
Mm,
call the owner, but it
right,
really is, it's the model. I mean,
right.
it's that same type of uh, taking ownership for the fact that I am reacting. And if I don't turn it to what you'd call about being curious or witnessing, and start looking at, okay, why am I doing this? It is so easy to blame. It's easy to just start pointing the finger. Um, and so that was the process for me to, when the Lord said, you need to start watching what's going on, what you're doing. And he just taught me through the years, line upon line. Oh, you just reacted. Oh, okay. What was going on? What just happened? What did Ezra say or do, and why does that matter to me? What's, and so that questioning, that becoming curious and witnessing what is going on, is just such a crucial beginning step to switch away from the blaming others to
Mhm.
the process of go doing the model.
Yeah, and what I've found is in the beginning of the work, we're just figuring out what we're even thinking or feeling. Then
Mhm.
after that, it becomes we see it after the fact. We go, "Oh, I reacted. What just happened?" And we have to go to the past to even try to make sense of it. And then we get to this point where we're in the present and we realize we're about to react and we notice our thoughts and feelings. We go, "Oh, I could actually change this and not do what my go-to is, which is snap or be angry or act irritated or all those things that I do." And then even better is the last step is start to create this emotions and thoughts that you want, where you actually beforehand, before the thing even happens in the present, you go, I anticipate this happening in the future. Like my stepmother-in-law will not want the next thing that I want to feed
Yeah,
her. And this is how I want to, this is what I want to create from that experience.
right.
So that's kind of the progression of what I've learned.
And
Any
actually,
on
and
that?
really the final step is that you don't react at all, and you don't even notice that you
Right.
didn't
Right.
react or didn't react. It's just become
A
that
part of you.
peaceful, yeah, it's just part of who you are. So
And I think that's the part where we start to become like Christ. We start to become who we're meant to be. We start to dive into our true identity on in our divine potential and see people as God sees them. That
yeah.
work.
And that's where I like the idea of understanding that I need to regain my personal power. I
Right.
had When we just react, we've lost our personal power. We've
Right.
not, it is everyone else's fault.
Yes.
And I'm a victim. We go into that victim mentality. And when I started realizing that I had I was having no power here. I'd given it all away. Uh,
Hmm.
that was a real eye opener, kind of a little shock. And actually, it was someone who told me, who pointed it out to me. You
Hmm.
know, you've given away your personal power. It's like,
Yes.
what? What do you mean?
And if anyone is perfect at this, it's Christ who said, forgive them for they know not what they do. While people are torturing him, he's in that much pain. He's having that difficult a moment, and he's not blaming them or being super angry at them and vindictive. He says, forgive them while they're torturing him. I mean, of course, Christ is the ultimate example of everything we learn. And
Yeah,
that's just one small area that I just look and go, I have a ways to go. I have a ways to go in accessing the thoughts that are Christ-like in situations that come up for me in my life. And just like you, I'm no expert. I've been working on this forever too, though. And I wanted to share this experience that is super awful and embarrassing that happens to me. And it's where shame often turns to blame towards others when we have these experiences. And instead of owning our mistakes, our brain quickly offers us many ideas of blame for others. And this is when I was having a really tough time in my marriage, and it was probably the worst, actually. And I wrote a very personal text about what was going on to my sister, and it was intended for her. And right at the time I was going to send the text, a ward council member sent a text to the whole ward council. And as I pushed send, his text came through, and my text about my personal marriage struggles went to all of the ward council. And I literally, when I realized it, I fell to the ground. I was so humiliated. And I knew now, everyone knew, and I hadn't told a soul about my marriage issues. And I knew now all the people I respected most in my ward knew way more than they needed to know about what was going on with my husband. Okay. So I basically started to blame. My first thought was, I am so angry at the person who sent that text to me in the word council. Like, why did he send it right then? And then I was upset that we even had a text thread going. I'm like, why do we have this text thread? And then I was upset that there was no way that I could delete the text, because immediately my bishop called and he's like, do you know you just sent blah, blah, blah. And luckily I'd already been meeting with him, so it wasn't any shock to him, but he was like, you just sent that to everyone. And I said, I know, how do I get it back? How do I get it back? And he said, Shari, there's no way to get it back. So then I was just mad I was even in this leadership position, that I even had, I was even on ward council. So it was everyone's fault but my own that this had happened in the beginning. I mean, that's just a progression of really quick thoughts that I had. But then, because I've done this work, hang on, really, I don't need to be angry at anyone, not even myself, because it was an accident. And so I just started to feel like just accountability. I own my mistake for accidentally sending this text to the ward instead of to my sister. And I shifted the blame and just sat in accountability and started the process of learning and healing from the shame I was then experiencing. And it was rough, you guys. I'll just say it was so hard that, and the process of trying to just allow shame and just change my thoughts around this particular situation, that I did not tell my husband, I don't think, for 2 years after this happened. I didn't even share it with him because it had been so horrible for me to work through. Partly, I wanted to protect him from, like, did you know that a ton of people on the ward know how bad this has been between us? And the shame I knew he would feel, and the work I knew he would have to do around this, which he had to do, by the way, because I felt like I need to fess up at some point. One more example I thought of is getting pulled over by a policeman when we're speeding. Your first thought might be, wait, he was hiding, he was tricking, he shouldn't have done that. He's in the wrong for hiding on Sunday, and I'm trying to get to church. I'm just trying to get there on time. And he's probably hates the gospel. That's why he's out here on a Sunday while everyone's rushing to church. And all these thoughts are full of blame for someone. Instead of taking responsibility for just speeding, we blame the police or and make the mistake, instead of saying, like, these are just what happens when you speed and there are consequences. We blame the policeman and we suffer the pain and consequences, but we don't learn or heal from any of it. It's just their fault. So Dee Dee, tell me your thoughts on this, what I've just shared, just on being the owner of our lives.
Well, first of all, it's very normal. We start in childhood blaming other people. We don't want to be in trouble. And I think part of it is, we talked about Satan being the accuser of the brethren.
Mm-hmm.
And he puts that in our head that we're the problem.
Yep.
Even as, you know, we get those little bit of, I don't want to be in trouble. We're so wired to want to be loved that we don't want any negative feelings, you know, or reactions sent to us. And so that's what we do, is we want to shift the blame to someone else. And like I said, it happens, starts in childhood, and until you are willing to really grasp the fact that it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to be human. It's okay to be normal. Doing this work doesn't mean you're never going to have embarrassing moments or moments where you're, wish it didn't happen or whatever. It's being able to know, it's knowing how to then process the moment. Just about 2 weeks ago, well, my stepmom had passed away. And there's so much that happens when someone dies, and so many things to think about. And I'm just swamped. And I get something from Social Security saying that they owe her money, and I need to fill out this form. So who the descendant's going to be to send the money to. And I have to put, I put my Social Security number on that form, and I mail it off. And 2 days later, Ezra says, "Did you verify if it was really from the Social Security office? I mean, it could have been a scam." I just had this anxiety attack.
Mhm.
And of course, I am mad at all scammers, and obviously they don't do good, you
Right.
know, you
Mhm.
know, it's not, it's not like I'm grateful for them, but I really was mad at myself. But I first start blaming them. I'm mad at them. How dare they prey on people who, just had death in their family. And fortunately, the good news is that I called the Social Security office in the morning and found out it was valid, that they
Okay.
had sent it.
Mhm.
And then when I had to laugh when I realized I think it was only $5 that they owed her. But but the reality is that we're going to have those kind of stressful things happen in life. And if we can, like you did, take that time to stop blaming other people, acknowledge I should have called the Social Security office and made sure, because I am trying to really hard to be vigilant in not being scammed.
Mhm.
And uh, Dee Dee, you probably fell for something. So doing the work allows us to recognize that it's okay to be normal, to be human, to have these experiences, but I need to allow that process that you talk about doing the now, with the emotions and
Mhm.
letting that, you know, go through us and heal. And really what happened was like, okay, Dee Dee, now you need to be more vigilant. Kind of like you got to be more careful with what text to send. Who make sure if you're going to send something real personal or don't send at all, be a little more careful. I'm going to be a little more careful when things come in the mail. Don't just assume it's the Social Security office. And so
Mhm.
we learn from these things, and that's good too. And sometimes, like you said, depending on the situation, it leads to repentance too.
Right.
There may be things that we need to repent of. And um, I had a problem for years that I blamed other people for, and in doing this work, it led me to repentance and finally be able to forgive myself too, and to heal. And it was the shame. I didn't want to face the shame of what I had done and but I needed to do it, and I needed to get to that point. So
Yeah, and it's okay to have it. We need sometimes to give ourselves time, patience, and practice. I needed that before I could tell my husband about what I'd done with the word counsel. I needed some time. Um, and I did learn, like you said, what do I learn from this mistake? That I don't want to text very personal things, or when I do, be very, very careful. And what good things came from this mistake is the bishop called me right away, like I said, and he consoled me. And I felt his love for me. And he showed me care and kindness. And I knew that probably the other people on the council were feeling compassion for me instead of, like judgment, which I thought that they were feeling. Another way to learn from mistakes is just to use gratitude. Like for the policeman, I'm grateful for the wake-up call that I was risking hitting a deer or putting other drivers at risk or pedestrians in danger by speeding. And I'm grateful for the policeman. He deals with these difficult situations all the time, and his job is to protect my family and my life. And he's there to help when we need him. And I find that a lot with my marriage too. When I'm super bugged at my husband for different situations, I often find that gratitude is the feeling that will get me to a better place between he and I, between my God and myself, all of it. So Dee Dee, what are your thoughts on how we can change our mistakes into learning and growth, or even repentance and healing? You've kind of talked about this, but maybe you want to talk about the older prodigal son, or what do you think you want to touch on at this point?
Well, just something to point out with the prodigal son. We talked about a little bit last time about how this older brother had to have years of negative thinking about his brother, um, to have reacted as he did when the news was that he came home. And just interesting how he accused, first of all, the brother, you know, that he had gone and wasted everything, all his inheritance. And he actually accuses his dad too. You never did that to me. What? And so the dad and the brother were the bad guys, and he accepted no responsibility for his actions and his feelings. And there, but part of the reason why we react the way we do in life, and you brought out shame, there's a lot of things that we want to hide, a lot of negative experiences that we want to hide, and we develop all sorts of techniques for
Mhm.
hiding. I had a friend who, and I certainly don't want to make it sound like I'm accusing everyone in this situation, but she used her illness to hide her negative feelings about herself, her limiting beliefs about herself and about life. She had bazillion, health issues, took 20 medications every day, and didn't drive. So she needed a lot of people helping her all the time. And one time I talked to her about health and brought her supplements, and we talked about good nutrition. And after 2 weeks, she gave it all back to me. And she said, I don't want to do this. And I said, why? And she said, well, I started feeling better and it scared me. I thought, what? And then later she told me, as a child, I used to fantasize that I was sick and in the hospital, and people would come to me and shower me with love and give me attention. And oh, I just saw a whole nother picture. It's like she loved her illness because she didn't have to face her painful childhood. And I love my friend, and she has since passed away. But it just showed me there are myriad ways that we hide. For me personally, I was kind of this victim mode. I but I hid behind people pleasing. People pleasing to me has become one of the biggest lies that there ever is. And for me, it was a huge lie,
I agree
because
with that too, from what I see with my clients, for sure.
yeah, I thought if I could make everyone happy and appease them, then I look the part of being good. And I got all sorts of compliments. You're so patient, you're so nice, and it just kind of fed the cycle,
Right, right.
of as long as no one is upset, then I'm doing good. Well, the reality is that I didn't really care about other people not being upset. I cared about how I looked in their eyes, or how I felt if they were upset, or if they were burdened, or whatever. I cared more about me. That's all I cared about, was how I was going to feel if I didn't appease them. And not long ago, I can't remember even now what the incident was, something that had happened with Ezra. and I was reacting, and I'm doing the work for it. And when I get to the last part where I need revelation, I need the Lord to teach me truth, I need to understand what's going on. The Lord said, it's not your job to make other people happy. And it was like, really? I thought it was.
I know.
Yeah, it was really a big shock to me to think that I thought that was how I was being good, but Lord help me understand, no, you're only caring about yourself here by making them thinking you had to make them happy. And, an example, when I was younger and had kids, the friend would call up, can you watch so and so on Friday afternoon? And I'm frantically thinking, okay, I got to change my hair appointment, and maybe I could squeeze doing the post office in the morning, and all this panic of what I'm going to have to do to change my life. And then respond, sure, yeah, I'd be happy to. And then I get off the phone and I'm upset
Mm-hmm.
because I now have to redo everything, but I couldn't bear the thought of them not maybe being mad at me for not being able to do it, or being burdened because now, who else are they going to call? That kind of stuff. It was just a big lie that I was hiding behind, making myself think I was doing the right thing, but it really wasn't for the right reason. I didn't really love and care. So I'm just trying to think, different ways we hide. Self-righteousness is another way. And that kind of goes with the people pleasing, where you're looking
Yes,
the
it does.
part.
It's closely related for sure.
Yep. What other things can you think of for how we hide?
So I like the silent mode hiding that you mentioned, about President Nelson gave a really, really good thought about this in a talk about contention that he gave. And it was, anger never persuades, hostility builds no one. Contention never leads to inspired solutions. Regrettably, we sometimes see contentious behavior even within our own ranks. We hear of those who belittle their spouses and children, of those who use angry outbursts to control others, and of those who punish family members with the silent treatment. And I think most of us don't think of silent mode or silent treatment as being contentious.
Right. Or as a way of hiding what they're truly feeling.
Right. And then resentment is
Mhm.
brewing this whole time, and they don't think anyone can feel it, or even they're just being righteous by not expressing anything. And it builds and builds and builds. And then all of a sudden, the marriage is a wreck.
Right. Ezra and I are both masters at the silent treatment for many years. And I could even brag that we never argued.
Right.
That doesn't mean we didn't have contention.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
It was
really good at going into separate rooms and brewing. Right.
and just, yep.
Mm-hmm.
And sweeping it under the carpet and not really ever addressing it.
The moms that I see, the young moms, what they're telling me they're doing is busy mode. So they distract themselves from accountability and all their emotions by the minute they feel a negative emotion or they feel upset about something. They, instead of being accountable and trying to figure it out, they go into cooking, cleaning, caring for the kid mode, scrolling on their phone, whatever it is that's buffering from the actual experience they're having. That's a big one I feel more in the younger generation. They just hide behind all the to-do list things.
And that can coincide with self-righteousness in that or perfectionism. How I look matters more than anything. And I'm not going to deal with those negative feelings because I have to look like I'm doing awesome.
Right. Right. So a couple others, we're almost out of time, but one that I've noticed is you just numb out of your emotions, and it's kind of like burying head in the sand. You cannot heal from this place. When you put a pause on your emotions by numbing them, it works temporarily. It really does. That's why we do it. But we put a pause on our healing when we pause our emotions. So that's really important to know. And the last one is addictions. And I liked how the prophet in his talk, Think Celestial, didn't just go with addictions like gaming, gambling, debt, drugs, alcohol, anger, pornography, sex. He even said food can offend God. Why? Because your obsession becomes your God. You look to it rather than to him for solace. So this is just another way of not being accountable, not allowing our feelings, not seeing things for what they are. We just do these addictive behaviors and call it good. Do you have any thoughts on that, Dee Dee?
Just kind of more in closing of the importance of, as we do this work and healing ourselves, is that also looking at others with more love and compassion, giving ourselves that love and compassion, but also seeing that other people may be hiding their true emotions too. They're also working and struggling through, painful issues, and truly be able to see them as God sees them and to love them helps us to also navigate our own feelings and work through this. The author Adam Miller, I loved, he said, nowhere in the scriptures are we commanded to be loved. We're commanded to love. And so many of the times our hiding emotions is because we're so afraid we're not loved. And we're trying to do everything we can to be loved and do all these, things that we do when we need to focus on loving.
That is a great end to this conversation. Thank you so much, Dee Dee, for being here again. I feel like I learned a ton, and I'm sure everyone else did. So thanks so much for taking the time to be on again and sharing this with us.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, we'll see ya.
See you, my friend.
Bye.